Phase 4 continues as Marvel Studios presents Eternals. I will be giving you my thoughts on this movie here today on this video, and I know some of you guys have been hearing the same thing I have before seeing it, and that is that it has a very, very mixed sort of viewpoint. There's people who aren't really sure about this one. So with this video, I'm going to be giving you my non-spoiler review for the film. I have avoided spoilers myself before seeing it, so if you're avoiding them, no worries. I'll give you my thoughts here, and then I'm going to come back in the future and do a full spoiler breakdown, in a few days, maybe even tomorrow. I haven't decided yet, but right now I'm recording the non-spoiler review of the movie. Just left the movie theater, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 minutes ago, and I'm going to be giving you my thoughts on the film. So, this is the next Phase 4 movie. And I want to let you know right now, just so you're aware, I am not very familiar with the Eternals comic line. I know a little bit about some of the characters. I know a little bit about the Deviants and, kind of that backstory and the Celestials, but I'm not an expert. I've never read an Eternals comic in my entire life. Not even once. So this is my first real exposure to these characters as far as their story and what it could mean and what is going on. So the movie was directed by Chloe Zhao, and Chloe Zhao has built up a pretty good reputation for herself thanks to a film that came out last year called Nomadland, which won a lot of awards. That movie won 4 Academy Awards, and that for a director now coming into the MCU a year later is a pretty big deal. Usually the MCU brings in these award-winning directors after some time has passed, if they even decide to do it. Whereas with her, boom, she's in and she's working on Marvel movies. Now, Eternals introduces a lot of new characters, and because of that, we have an ensemble cast. Gemma Chan, Richard Madden, Leah McHugh, Brian Tyree Henry, Don Lee, Harish Patel, Kit Harington, Salma Hayek, and Angelina Jolie round out the cast, among others. So, let's just get to the bottom line here. Did I like this movie or did I hate it? I've seen some folks in my social media saying it's a trash movie. I've seen some say it's okay. I'm somewhere in the middle. These are the hardest but yet the most fun movies to review because there's a lot of good and bad, which I'm going to go really in depth in the spoiler review. But I'm just going to say this to get some stuff out of the way. The acting in the movie is great. You have some really good actors here. Although some actors here I feel are a bit wooden. Like the actors themselves, some of them come off a bit wooden. Some of them, however, who have been great in other movies, some of them, however, come off pretty good. For example, I felt like Angelina Jolie really contributed acting-wise, not much to the movie. Richard Madden fits what they were trying to get him to do with the character, but he wasn't all that interesting to me. But again, all I'm going to say is he's like a less interesting version of Homelander. That's the way I'm seeing him. He's basically a less interesting version of Homelander. Brian Tyree Henry was good. I felt like Salma Hayek was good, even though it's interesting seeing a woman who was such a sex symbol for so many years being more of like a motherly character in this movie. That was interesting, and some of it was just kind of there, The thing about this movie, I think that's its biggest problem, is that the characters to me just aren't all that interesting. They're just not, and part of the problem is because you have a lot of new characters, and even though the movie is pretty long, it just, you really don't have too much time to develop them as opposed to like a Shang-Chi. And let's talk about that real quick. So, when it comes to Phase 4, I like this movie a little bit more than Black Widow, but not as much as Shang-Chi. To me, it's a good movie, but not a great movie, in my opinion. Not a great film, but there are some great moments in the movie. But really, what it really boils down to is that this is another somewhat formulaic MCU movie. It's another one that you can throw in the pile. And I know some folks don't want to hear that, but these movies are becoming very, very formulaic. It's like the same thing over and over again. There were a couple of twists that caught me off guard in the film, which I did enjoy. That much is true, but you've got sort of the same idea. Now, one thing I did like that they did, which is not new territory, is that it's told from a non-linear perspective throughout the first 2 acts of the movie. What I mean is they show you the present day, then they go back to the past to kind of explain either a certain character's relationship with another character or a moment that ties into something later on. Like that was actually good sort of editing and good directing in a way, because that's kind of the right way to tell this story. You don't want to start in the past and move to the present, because the Eternals have been around for thousands of years. So starting in the present to get us hooked, to me, is the right way to go, and then kind of go and tell the backstory. Now, one thing about this movie, it's going to be talked about to death, and I'm sure it already has, but I haven't seen any reviews or anything, is that there's two things, actually two things. Number one, the special effects. It's pretty much we've already seen in the past, except some of it does not look very good. The deviants, for example, are just giant CGI monsters, and they're not at all that interesting. But it's different because it's like you have these charismatic villains, like the Mandarin, like Thanos, Killmonger. This is nowhere close to being on their level, and they're just kind of monsters for the most part. That's pretty much what they are. So the story does, and that's good in a sense because it gives them time to kind of focus on the Eternals characters more. But to me, you can't expect that like nice, interesting bad guy. And again, I'm not going to go into any spoilers because it's more complex than that. And when you see the movie, you know what I'm talking about. But it doesn't have that driving, villainous force like in other movies do. That's only my opinion. Now, the other thing is whether or not this movie is woke. There is a lot of representation in this film. You have different characters that represent different ethnicities. You've got a white guy, a white woman, a Spanish, Indian, Chinese, black. You've got gay representation in this film, and it's not done in a subtle way. I mean, when you see the Eternals all together, you can just see that, yeah, this was kind of like this casting was done on purpose to be diverse. Point blank, that's what it is. If that bothers you about this movie, well, it's in the movie. Honestly, for me, I don't care. I've never cared about that kind of stuff, whether it's an all-white cast, all-black cast, or diverse. It's never mattered too much to me as long as they're kind of close to the comic book. And there are some changes, not going to lie, but it's never really been a big issue for me. I'm not one of those guys that will write off a movie because it's diverse. It's just so stupid how angry people get over this. It just doesn't make any sense. And it's not really a movie that is too woke in that it's not trying to shove an agenda down your throat. They don't keep saying over and over again, oh, we're a diverse team. It's not brought up. It's just kind of subtle in the background, which thankfully they did that. Not too much stuff like that if you're worried about that, because that can get pretty annoying pretty fast. The movie does have a message, but it's one that we've seen before. That's the issue with these MCU films, is that we've had so many of them, and they're going to have the same kind of lessons told over and over again. And this one is no different. It's a repeated lesson we've learned before with characters that we've kind of seen before. In some ways, this movie has a lot of Zack Snyder written all over it in the way that it's colored, the way that the palette is, and also some of these characters come off like Zack Snyder characters. You've got your generic kind of like Superman type of God man who has fire powers from his eyes, the heat rays. You've got a character who can create weapons out of thin air. You've got one that can control elementals. You've got one that can control people's minds. You've got like a nice array of powers here to round out the cast, but not one character to me was all that like amazing, except for honestly Kingo Kumail Nanjiani, that is. He was probably the funniest character in the movie and one that I enjoyed the most. So this is his sidekick in the movie, which you're going to see it when you see the movie. I really liked him a lot. Also, I want to talk about the sex scene. This is not a sex scene. You see two people who are rocking back and forth with from their collarbones up. That's it. That's barely even like a making out scene. You know what I mean? It's I don't know if people are offended at this, but you can take your kids to go see this movie. They're not going to know what's going on. You might know, but they're probably not going to know what's going on if you're wondering about that. And again, the movie feels like something out of Phase 2. It feels like something that may have come out like 15 years ago. It doesn't feel like something that fits with nowadays. And that's not necessarily a compliment. I know I like comparing different eras and things like that, but it just seems like if it wasn't for Disney's, budgets, this movie would have been a disaster. Like visually it's fine, but it just it feels like it was kind of made for TV. Like it feels sort of like an Amazon Prime series, which is not, again, not a diss because a lot of those are good, but some of the effects just feel, the Homelander thing. I can't get that out of my head, yo. I cannot get that out of my head, yo. You'll know when you see the movie. Overall, thumbs in the middle. Is it worth going to go see right now? That depends on your budget. If you're a Marvel fan and you're going to go see everything, you might as well go see this one. If you want to wait for streaming on this, that's okay too, because what they set up in the mid and post credit scenes is pretty cool, but it has, at least I don't think it has any connection to at all to Spider-Man or to Doctor Strange or any of that stuff. So if you want to wait for this to come out on streaming, you can do that because I don't think. And by the way, I did mark out for the mid and post credit scenes, but they're kind of deep cuts. If you don't know about the comics, at least with other characters, you're not really gonna know exactly what is going on, and you're not gonna know. Well, they kind of tell you who they are, so at least there's that. But again, if you want to wait for streaming and save your money for Spider-Man or another movie, feel free to do that. If you go see it though, it's probably worth seeing once. I might see it again in the future when I do a Phase 4 watch party again, when I watch them all over again. It's not worth going to go see twice. Shang-Chi was, this was not really. Those are my thoughts. Thanks for watching. Talk to you in the spoiler review coming very soon.